So good afternoon. I'm Chris Cooney, and it's my pleasure to be here with Rod Clark, who's with our SCORE chapter and is the co-chair. I want to tell you a little bit about SCORE and the Chamber in terms of our relationship. So the Chamber is just over 100 years old, and for about half of that time, we've been co-located or hosted a SCORE chapter. SCORE actually stands for Senior Corps of Retired Executives, but it's a division developed by the Small Business Administration of the United States government that was started back in 1964. So it's 56 years new. And they have been a tremendous resource. I'm going to give you a little bit of background about SCORE. It's the nation's largest network of volunteers. These are all volunteer executives, retired, who are giving of their time and expertise to help American businesses develop and grow and be successful. They are all go through a series of trainings that give them the ability to listen and contribute their expertise in a focused and diligent and outcomes-driven way. So it was 1964. There are about 300 chapters nationally with 11,000 volunteers. The southeastern Massachusetts SCORE chapter has 7 branch locations with 45 volunteers operating in and around the area south of Boston and really centered, I think, in Brockton, since we're right in the heart of the district. As I said, we've been co-located with SCORE for more than 50 years in Brockton, and we are delighted to continue that. In fact, just recently, we signed an agreement in January with the Small Business Administration to create and extend a strategic partnership that will include not only SCORE resources and volunteers in our offices, but also the professional staff, the paid staff from the Small Business Administration office at the Tip O'Neill building in Boston. They will be down at our location on a regular basis as well. So Susan Laurie is somebody who's been participating in quite a few chamber programs, and she is our point of contact right now. So we're delighted to have with us Rod Clark. He has been with with a SCORE in southeastern Massachusetts for a number of years now. He's the co-chair of the chapter. He's a retired executive in sales and marketing from the healthcare industry. And, welcome, Rod, for coming today and being with our members and our listeners.
Thank you, Chris. Great to be here.
Excellent. So, I just heard a quote. I'm on these Zoom calls back to back to back, and I was just on with the Senate President Spilka, and she had a great quote. She said, we're going to be going forward to work, not back to work. There will be a new work world that lies ahead, and there's no going back from where we've come. And I thought that is really quite accurate description of where we find ourselves and where we're looking forward to, which is really not even returning, but going to work in a new way. And I think this is part of it. Many of us talked about our Zoom histories have been this year. I was never on a Zoom call before 2020. I'm not sure about you. But so, Rod, hopefully soon businesses will be reopening, right, and going to this new world of work. What should business owners be doing now to ensure successful reopening of their businesses in hopefully the weeks and months to come?
Well, that's a great question, Chris. And it's really tough for the business owners because they have to certainly stay in the present to get money, get their loans, try to stay viable from a financial perspective. And that's tough enough, especially if you have employees. But really what they have to be thinking about is the customer. And I guess it's kind of near and dear to my heart from a sales and marketing perspective is the customer drives everything. And you are a customer, I'm a customer, we all know of our experiences, and we're not thinking the same way we used to. We've been held up at home. One thing that's important, certainly for these business owners now, is to get on social media, because that's what we're doing. We're on social media probably more than ever because we're staying at home more. So I think the business owners have to start thinking about adjustments, and they have to start thinking about the customer and what is that experience going to look like. So I think that's the first thing that really has to happen.
So it's customer focused thought process and planning. So that sounds reasonable. What adjustments for medium to high customer interaction business need to be addressed first before the business can reopen?
Yeah, and we'll spend just a second on the no to low customer interaction, physical interaction, and those folks are probably in the best scenario because they've been doing internet sales or e-commerce. The only thing they have to worry about is supply chain, and that's been a real challenge at times. But the ones that have the medium to high, and we can think of retail or we can think of restaurants, they're going to have to think about safety. The customer now wants to know, am I going to have a safe environment when I come into your store, if I come into your restaurant, if I come into your art boutique, what's that going to look like? And it probably is important for the business owners to do a little research. They can go to the internet to do that, to even Google, what is my customer concerned about as they come back into my business? And you can ask just about any question, and it's answered on the internet, as you know. But they can also do this through social media. They can get out to their email base and say, this is what I'm going to be doing, distancing, wiping down, whatever all that is. But I think they need to validate that and say, is that what you're looking for? Because someone might say, I'm not coming into your store if there's more than 6 people there. I'm just not going to do it. There was an example of a local business here in the South Shore, and they closed the store and they had individual appointments where you came in for 20 minutes, they shut the door, locked it, you did your shopping, and then you left. So I'm not saying that's exactly the answer, but I don't think the business owners can assume that what they're thinking is safe is what the customer is thinking. So that'll be morphed over time as people come in the door. I think business owners need to be interacting, and I think what's going to be tough is to keep that distance. We're so much into customer satisfaction, and it'd be hard not to shake someone's hand, not to walk up and try to greet them and say hello. So I think those are the things that have to happen. Now, on a tactical perspective, I wrote down just a couple of things that I think are important, and I'll just kind of go through them. One is certainly you want to discuss your options with your creditors. Don't ever feel as though you have to be bound by certain receivable, payable situations. You need to call your creditors and say, look, I'm strapped here. I've got this loan coming in, or what can you do to try to spread things out? So make sure you do that. And as I mentioned, local social media. Videos are awfully important now, and there's a lot of instructions on YouTube on how to do a YouTube video. So I would suggest that you get yourself out there and say, hey, we are open, or we're coming to the date where we will reopen, and here's what we're going to be doing, and be very enthusiastic about that. Deliveries are going to be very sketchy at times, and so you have to think, if I'm going to open up those doors, the last thing I want is to have a back order or have a product that's not on the shelf, or all of a sudden a menu item is just not going to be there because I can't get certain ingredients. We know that you and I are both definitely involved in the government cash programs, trying to educate our customers, and they have to get on that. The second loan applications and all that is now happening. So the second stimulus is out there, so they have to work there. I think the other thing that's very important is the cost reduction. I think costs are going to be, the cash is not going to be as plentiful. And so you have to trim and you have to cut. Now I'm not saying you have to cut employees, but what you have to do is re-engineer how you use your employees, whether you go with shifts, whether you do things creatively, and try to certainly continue the employment from that perspective. But you certainly want to do those kinds of things. And then when you do cut those costs, then take that money and maybe not just put it completely back into the bottom line, but put it back into new things, re-engineer it. Maybe you buy something, or you spruce something up, or you maybe hire someone to do a different job than what you had in the past. And I don't know, Chris, I don't know if you're hearing the same things. You're out there and you're talking to folks.
Well, what I'm hearing from you is a really strategic planning and really a thoughtful formulation of questions to your customer base as to what are they going to feel comfortable doing to acquire your product or service, and in what setting. And then secondly, your employees, what is safe to expect your employees to do and how to conduct. And you gave some ideas about setting up appointments and wiping things down in between, and giving customers maybe an increased focus of attention and an increased focus of safety in this new way of working. And that could be in retail. I'm thinking jewelry store or a carpet store or any type of retail where you're kind of giving 15-minute appointments where you kind of focus on each other, which may or may not result in the sale, but everybody's safe at the end of the culmination. And then lastly, I think you touched on a topic of the customer experience in terms of in terms of how many customers are going to return once you create that experience, and then what are your revenues going to be, what are your expenses going to be, and really, so there's multiple pieces to that strategic plan. There's operations, there's customer considerations, and there's employee considerations. And, quite often, a lot of our businesses right now are a little bit panicked. I mean, they've had to lay some people off in many cases. They're applying for grants online. They're getting bumped off the SBA site, as it happened yesterday. I know that's back up now, but that can be unnerving when you think, okay, I'm going to get some relief from a PPP application or EIDL application, but then you get bumped off the site. You start to panic. And so what I'm hearing from you, first of all, is kind of a wise, calm, thoughtful approach. And I would think that a lot of our small businesses could benefit by your years of experience and your place now where you can give some advice on what comes first and then how to incrementally, strategically get your business back up and running. And so, I urge all small businesses, especially as this situation continues, is to set up an appointment online with the SCORE chapter, with Rod, and with this 45 volunteers to set up an appointment like this where you can talk confidentially about your fears, about next steps, and about your future success. And I can think of no other place that would be better to start your steps to returning to work than by setting up an appointment on the SCORE portal. So we're hearing much of what I just outlined in terms of concerns. I wanted to kind of get back to, it sounds like the emphasis we will need to be placed on training employees for this new normal. And what do business owners need to do right away in establishing that?
Yeah, well, you mentioned this idea of trying to get the calm and the making sure that the business owner is very upfront with their employees about what they're going to do to make their experience as an employee safe. And I think the employee actually, I guess with our legal system today, I think they're in the driver's seat when you think about it, that they can say, you know what, I'm employed by you now. I really want to make sure that when I come into the workplace that it's going to be safe. And I think the smart business owner would bring the employees in to do this strategic planning and bring them in as a team and start working on that as a group, because they're going to have very good ideas and they're going to have a buy-in into what the new norm looks like. One of the exercises we do with new businesses is we have them project out, if they're starting a business, we have them project out a year, 2, 3 years, and we say, okay, you're very successful. What does it look like? Who's in your store? What are you selling? How much money are you making? And now we work backwards. So how do we make that happen
Visioning exercise.
That's right. So 36 months out, what is it? 30 months, 20 months, 10 months. They're going to have to do that now again, because they're going to have to project what that experience looks like versus opening the door and saying, well, let's figure out what it is. And then maybe 6 months from now, we'll know what it is. It's not going to work. So the employees, it'd be great if the employees sat down with the business owners and said, okay, let's just dream here. Let's get the easels out and the markers. What's this going to look like? And how do we plan this out? And let's say that we have to have 6 feet between folks. How many can we have in the store at one time? How are we going to clean things? How are we going to check people out? Are we going to put tape on the floor? All the things you're seeing in the grocery store today. And now that because we see that in these stores, then we expect that when we come into a place and looking down and all around, wait a minute, if we don't see that, we may turn around and walk out.
Yeah.
Because we just don't see the same type of rigor that the other folks are going through. So employees, I think, just my advice for employees is if your business owner isn't thinking this way, take the initiative and say, boss, we need to start thinking about this, and let's have let's get some donuts and get into a safe place if we can, or do it on Zoom, and let's dream about what this reopening looks like. So I think that's going to be awfully important.
It's great advice. I think one of the benefits we're going to have in Massachusetts, there's always silver linings, is that some of the states were impacted less and are returning to work before we will. And so I was watching World News the other evening, and they were highlighting some restaurants on the West Coast and also down in Georgia. And they had the mayor of one of the towns come in while the film crew was in there. And they were showing that every other table was blocked off, no seating. And so every other table had seating, and that, gave almost 10 feet apart. And so it was a recognition, I think, to everything we've just talked about, that, business does need to return for revenues and for jobs. But it also needs to do it with the safety of the employee in mind, as well as the customer experience. And so I guess we'll see how that goes. And hopefully the kinks will be worked out, and the ideas and the innovation that's going on in other parts of the country will benefit our learning experience. In addition, Rod, we're going to have our weekly call since this started, every Friday at 2:00. We have we have the mayor, state officials, federal officials, and sometimes elected federal officials on a call with, we've averaged about 125 people every Friday. This Friday, we're going to have someone from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. They have a vast existence in this country. People don't realize they are the largest business lobbying organization in the United States. And they have more than 4,000 employees. They have a very large building right across the street from the White House. And they have think tanks and research bureaus that are funded by the Gates Foundation and the Ford Foundation and all different organizations to focus on these things. And I know they're working right now with the federal government on OSHA guidelines for the return, or the going forward to work, not back to work, as Senator Spilka was quoted as saying that today. There'll be ideas and best practices for the reopening and how to take precautions. So on our website at metrosouthchamber.com, there is a COVID recovery page, and we're posting all of those best practices there, along with the American Association of Chamber Execs, which has collected model return policies, meaning possibly staggered staffs so that you don't have too many people in the office at the same time.
Right.
And much to your point of sneeze guards and things that we didn't see before this now will be commonplace. More hand sanitizer, more masks, more signs guiding and regulating people's interactions. To move forward in a positive, fruitful way, as opposed to a callous, haphazard way. And I think that will be helpful. And I think those are the kind of questions that you'll be able to answer as well.
Yeah, I think the thing that's going to be interesting is the normal idea would be, or the typical idea would be, hey, let's have a sale, or let's have something to get all the folks back in our store. Well, the problem is you can't do that because the distancing, we still need, until we get a vaccine, we've still got to keep this distancing. So then how do you do some things? And this is where I think the internet, if you're not on the internet from a selling perspective, or even through a takeout or some type of way to connect with a customer, you need to do that, because that's going to have to be a combination of remote plus distancing, and then it's all going to work. But I do think that all of us want to support our small businesses. And if you get that message out that we're still here, we're still excited to be part of your community, we're going to be doing our best, and everybody wants to help, and they know they're trying the hardest they can. and take that tact as a business owner and really communicate that, and you'll be successful. But if you don't have a plan of how you're going to distance folks from a very strategic perspective, then the day is going to get out of hand, and people will come and they'll turn around and they'll leave, and they may never come back. So it's really going to be very interesting. I kind of like the idea of staging the way the country maybe does that, and maybe even from a town perspective, maybe you stage certain areas so that it's just not a big mob, because all of us are going to want to get outside as soon as we can, to go that route.
So tell me, Rod, what resources are available from SCORE right now to the business owner to implement some of the ideas that we just talked about?
Yeah, so let me do this. Let me share my screen here. And so I just put one slide together that I think kind of helps talk about this. The national SCORE website is phenomenal, and it has its own section called Coronavirus Small Business Hub, and it's right at the very beginning. So all you do is you click on that. And that has a lot of what you see with the SBA, the Treasury. They've pulled all kinds of different types of, not only the loan information, but also things that would be, in fact, I'm going to be on a webinar at 1 today to talk about how do you market yourself in this reopening environment. And it's done by a consultant. So another one is that I saw was, how do you mentally get through this uncertainty? And how, as a business owner, do you take that and move with it and stay in the lead? So there's a lot of great webinars, there's blogs, there's articles. So score.org is tremendous. Then our website, SEMA.score.org, there's 2 ways you can do this. One is if you request a meeting, and you can use this for even COVID type questions. We look at these every day, and then we assign someone to get back to this person immediately. We have 5 folks within the chapter that are COVID subject matter experts, and so they are answering questions very quickly. And we also have our own webpage that's called Special Information on COVID-19 Assistance and with Loans, and we have some information there that you can utilize. And then we are going to be, take a look on, we'll be certainly letting you, Chris, know to put it on your website. On May webinars, we're having Getting Back to Business remote webinars, and we've got some real good subject matter experts in the hospitality industry that will go in much deeper than what I did today on what do you have to do to really think through this and reinvent a lot of your processes. Even, you think about your business plan. Half of it probably isn't viable anymore. So you have to really start redoing that. So these are some things. Hopefully you can then post this on our little webinar today, and people will be able to see these 2. And then I would, these 2 websites here, I would also just encourage anyone just to go to Google and ask every question that you want to ask, and you'll find all kinds of things will pop up. And then look at the Google services, Google My Business, certain things that are free that you can get your message out on social media.
Well, I love this fact that you've got all these resources and models in one location at score.org. In these times, everybody's getting exhausted with the Google searches and the Zooms and all that. So the fact that you've done all the work for them and put it right here in one location, plus a link to scheduling an appointment with a SCORE counselor, I think is a wonderful way to assist. And to imagine that you guys are all volunteers and professionals doing this work, really kudos to you. So if someone wants to talk with you, Rod, or one of your experts, how do they do that? You talked about the website. Is it easy?
Yeah, it is easy. Once you hit request a meeting, the 7 branches have a calendaring system, and they can go in and they can look at the counselors that are available. We use the Chambers of Commerce, as we do with you, and the other 7 branches were in those locations. And so you can see where that is. So that's the Mansfield, Tri-Town, we have Taunton, we have you. We do Norwood Staples location. We have the Quincy area. We certainly have the South Shore Chamber in Rockland, and then we have Plymouth. We also have the Plymouth Library. So you'll see all of the different areas where we counsel, and then those mentors that are available. If you go into score.org, you can do the same thing, but then it's shuffled down to us, and then our administrator looks at the zip code, and then they try to then match the mentor from that perspective. Our goal, and as we've done very well with this, is within 24 hours, you'll get a response saying that the mentor's name will be contacting you. So you know right away you've been patched if you didn't do it yourself. If you did it yourself, it's over. You're done, and you have that time. If it goes to the national website, you'll get a note. It'll say Rod Clark is going to be contacting you, and then I contact the person and we set it up.
Now, I know you've been online for a few years. Are you doing Zoom calls now, or Skype for Business or something?
Yeah, we sure are. We're doing a lot of the Zoom calls. We are now doing, I've been on SBA webinars where I'm now part of the panel. And so we're doing a lot of these activities where we are one of the members there to give advice. And we are certainly doing a lot more on Zoom. And the beauty with the Zoom capability we have is we can bring on as many people. We have an account with them through SCORE. We can bring on as many as 100 people. So if we want to do a webinar, which we will do obviously in May and probably June, who knows, maybe even July. We still may be doing these things remotely. You never know.
Well, I would think that your Zoom appointments are going to go up, especially during this time as people try to assess and inventory where they are in terms of moving back to work or forward to work again. And it's great that they have the ability to access these resources right now while they're at home contemplating the future of their business. So we know locally, should they go to the score.gov or should they go?
The SEMA.score.org is the best way to go.
Okay.
And that gets us right to, your kind of hometown website.
Okay.
And that's where it has the calendaring system. If you go to score.org, you won't see that. It'll go into a kind of, you'll fill out some information, but you won't see which mentors are out there. The other thing you can do within SEMA.score.org as well as the national is then you can search for a particular mentor. You can put a topic in.
Okay.
You want someone with restaurant experience, you want someone with finance, or you want someone with information technology. Then these mentors will come up, and then you can, my profile is in. So if I've had some folks contact me, not only within Massachusetts, but also from outside the state that said, hey, you were in healthcare manufacturing, sales and marketing. I need to talk to you. So the profiles are very good because we then match ourselves much more efficiently with new clients.
That's terrific. I mean, it's just a great resource for everyone. Before we wrap up, I will mention the programs that have been extended for financing. The Small Business Administration announced on yesterday at 10:30 a.m., the portal for the PPP, the Payroll Protection Program, and the EIDL, the Emergency Loan Program, which is actually turning into a grant program, reopened. And so they're accepting applications via online for the EIDL Advance. That's a 3-minute application. Put in your information, tell them how many full-time employees you have, 2 part-time equals 1 full-time. And they're actually each issuing emergency grants of up to $10,000 based on your number of employees. We have a number of companies. We were pushing that earlier on, and many, many companies in the Brockton area and the Metro South region have received those dollars already transferred right into their accounts. Every day the last week, I've heard companies receiving those funds. In addition, many of them have linked up with their local credit union or community-based bank or their bank and filed for the PPP forgivable loan program, which will forgive up to 8 weeks of payroll costs if you maintain your employees. So that's a great added benefit and takes the edge off. Plus, they'll help you with your mortgage payment, your rent payment on your business, as well as your utilities. Right. So for those 8 weeks after you're approved. So that's extraordinary, especially right now, because it looks like this may extend up to June at least, and maybe even be impacted going into June and maybe to the end of June. So those 8 weeks would be, if you apply now, you're getting payroll costs covered for the next 8 weeks, which would be fantastic. So we're just continuing to push on that, getting people into the queue. We're telling every business, don't hesitate. Don't try to add up everything right now. Apply as if you're going to need it, because you probably will need it in terms of cash flow operations and whatnot. It'll benefit your employees. It'll keep your employees in place so you're not laying them off and they get scooped up by a competitor. And it'll give you some time, like the rest of the country, to absorb what's happening and then how we get back into business. So please go, again, to the Chamber's website, metrosouthchamber.org, com. There is a whole link system to each of those applications. You can also research SBA or SCORE, and there's links right there to the grants. And again, reach out to your banker. The last thing I'll say, Rod, you touched on this in terms of costs and expenses, paring those back. One of the things you want to do is talk to your commercial banker. We're hearing from all of our banks. Tell them to reach out to us. If they think they're going to have a problem or a hiccup or need to skip a payment, even into September, then they should call us now, because we can do some things with their loan that will allow them a little breathing room and give them some cash flow, which will allow them to get back on their feet before it's too late. They've all reiterated as well that they don't really want to hear from people in October that September's payment got missed, and now what can you do for me? They want to know now so they can adjust things and be proactive. So any other last bits of advice or?
No, I think you've hit on a lot of great things. And, touching on the lenders, they want the businesses to succeed. They really want, so I think contacting them and staying in touch with basically your friend. I mean, they want to be the resource to help the local community do as well as they can, because it's a win-win. Local business community is healthy, the bank is healthy. And so, I think that's important. Don't assume anything, to your point. Make sure you get on the phone and have those conversations, because if you don't, you may find yourself in a tougher spot. So I think right now, for SCORE's perspective, we are still here to answer a lot of the questions tactically with the EIDL and the PPP, but we're now kind of shifting our gears to help businesses really start thinking. And now's a great time to do it, because the doors aren't open yet, but they will be. And the ones that are smart about this and really get a jump on the strategic planning and think through it and get customer interaction and customer input, they're going to succeed probably better than others. So
agreed. It's going to give them the competitive edge. So
yeah. Yes.
Well, Ron, I want to thank you on behalf of the business community here in the Metro South region. I know you have a lot of work to coordinate 45 volunteers every day. You and your co-chair, it's yeoman's work that you're doing to help businesses, especially at this critical time, be able to resettle themselves and move forward. So I want to thank you for the time and the effort and expertise that you bring to this position. And we certainly look forward to working with you in a continued partnership. It's great that we're co-located for more than 50 years right in Brockton, and that we'll continue to be able to work together for the benefit of the business community. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Always great to be with you, and I look forward to it in the future.
Excellent. Take care.